When I graduated from college, I had to make a decision. I am both a musician and a business person. When I looked into the music business, I realized this wasn't a business I wanted to get into, so I got into the investment or the financial services industry instead. But I still approach business like a jazz musician, and it's really important to think like a jazz musician and not a classical musician. Classical musicians typically play what they see on the sheet of paper. Jazz musicians usually take the sheet of paper and improvise around it. So I like to think about business like a jazz musician. One of the things that jazz musicians do is they don't just copy what everybody else plays. What they do is they try to take a standard and make it their own. So I think it's really important, if you see successful businesses that you like and so on and so forth, don't just try to copy them. Take what they're doing that's great and make it your own. You can make your own version of something that other companies are doing, and most people will never even know that you got the idea from somewhere else. Why? Because you're playing it your way. Find a structure and then throw out the rest. I think this is really important. Jazz musicians play chords. They don't play every note that's on the sheet of paper. Find a structure, a business structure that works for you, but then do it completely the way you want. So if you're going to do a subscription model and you know that subscription models work, then stick with that model. If it's a transactional model, take that model, but make it your own, make it unique, make it creative. That's very important. Another thing is there's a saying called think outside the box. And everybody says this saying, but it's very different to actually do it. It's actually really hard to think outside of the box. So you've got to create a structure for yourself that you can think outside of the box. And a lot of times that's not going to be in your office, that's not going to be in the workplace. I live on the beach, so I have the unique ability to walk out onto the sand and sit down by myself and really think about things. What is a wacky thing to do? And I might shoot down a lot of those ideas, but you have to be willing to think really outside the box to find those ideas too. That doesn't mean they're all going to work, but it's one thing to say, oh, go think outside the box, and it's another thing to actually go doing. Be willing to play the wrong notes, and that's part of thinking outside of the box. And what that means is, I used to go to a lot of Grateful Dead concerts, and some shows were just amazing. They were amazing. They would play and they would come back to the point and it was just all perfect, and it was an amazing show. And then some nights they didn't quite hit it, but they were willing to try every night to get that perfection. In the nights they didn't get that perfection, nobody really was angry about it, but you have to be willing to try. You have to be able to go out there if you want to try to get that perfect show in, that perfect night. And the same thing goes with business. You got to be willing to try things and fail if you're really going to find that amazing thing that works. So don't be scared. Try it. Don't be so invested in it that if, oh, it doesn't work, I'm crushed. Try it. You might find that it not only works, it comes together for a beautiful song. It's really important to get feedback, and this is also an important part of thinking like a jazz musician. If at the end of your song, people are on their feet cheering and clapping, it was a good song. If people loved it, it was a good song. And I think that it's really, really important to get feedback from your customers, get feedback from your employees. Don't be scared. If they really love what they're doing and they tell you this and they give you the feedback, I mean, that's one of the nice things about Yelp. People post reviews, you can see feedback on your business. I think it's a really important tool to seek feedback from your customers, see what they're saying about your employees, their experience, and don't be scared, because if they're not saying good things, you need to make adjustments. But if they're saying great things, you really know you're going down the right track. I think it's really important to think like a jazz musician and not a classical musician when you're running a business, because there really isn't a right or wrong way to run a business. What ultimately works is trying different things to get your business to work, to get traction so that you can see from your customers, is this really appealing to them? Is this really giving them what they need? Is it really helping them achieve what they're trying to achieve when they're using your company? And I think if you kind of use this idea of taking the structure but making it your own, you have this great opportunity to create a unique business.